Good evening again. Let me ask you a question. How many of us at some point in our lives have searched for love? Maybe it was through relationships, maybe in the form of validation from others, or perhaps in the hope of feeling complete. We've all been there, haven't we? Searching, yearning, wanting. But what if I told you that the search itself is the thing that's holding you back from the love you so deeply desire? Love, in its truest form, is not something that can be found outside of ourselves. It is not something that we can chase or seek through relationships, achievements, or the approval of others. Love is an inside job. It begins with us, within the very core of our being, and radiates outward into the world. The reason we often feel disconnected, lonely, or incomplete is because we are looking for love in all the wrong places externally, rather than internally. The concept of self-love can seem foreign to many of us because we are conditioned to believe that love is something we need to find in someone else, that our worth is tied to how others perceive us. From a young age, we are taught to look outward for affirmation, whether it's from our parents, friends, partners, or society. We are constantly searching for validation, for confirmation that we are worthy of love, acceptance, and belonging. But what if I told you that love is not something to be earned or pursued? What if I told you that love is already present within you, waiting to be acknowledged? Self-love is the foundation of all other love. It is the key that unlocks the door to authentic connection, peace, and fulfillment. Until we truly love ourselves, we cannot fully love others or accept love in return. When we learn to love ourselves, we begin to realize that we are worthy of love, not because of our achievements or how others perceive us, but simply because we exist. Our inherent worth does not come from what we do, how we look, or how others treat us. It comes from who we are at our core, the unique and irreplaceable individuals we are. Loving ourselves is not about narcissism or arrogance. It is about embracing our imperfections and showing ourselves compassion. It means being kind to ourselves when we make mistakes, forgiving ourselves when we fall short, and accepting ourselves as we are, without the need to be perfect. Self-love involves treating ourselves with the same respect, care, and kindness that we would offer to a dear friend or loved one. It is about honoring our feelings, our needs, and our desires, and recognizing that we are worthy of being treated with love and respect. When we cultivate self-love, we stop relying on others to fill our emotional voids. We no longer look to external sources to make us feel complete or validated. Instead, we begin to source our love from within. This shift in perspective allows us to stand in our own power, to feel confident and secure in who we are, regardless of what others think or say. It frees us from the need to constantly seek approval or affection from others, and it allows us to enter into relationships from a place of wholeness, not neediness. The process of cultivating self-love begins with self-awareness. We must take the time to reflect on our thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. We must ask ourselves, do I love myself unconditionally? Do I accept myself for who I am, flaws and all? Am I treating myself with the same kindness and compassion that I would extend to others? These are difficult questions, but they are necessary ones if we are to truly understand ourselves and begin the journey of self-love. We must be willing to look at ourselves honestly, to acknowledge our strengths and our weaknesses, our successes and our failures, without judgment or shame. Self-love also involves setting healthy boundaries. When we love ourselves, we recognize that we deserve to be treated with respect, and we are willing to stand up for ourselves when necessary. We no longer allow others to treat us poorly or take advantage of our time, energy, or emotions. We understand that it is okay to say no, to walk away from situations or people that drain us, and to prioritize our own well-being. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, and it is essential for maintaining our mental, emotional, and physical health. Another important aspect of self-love is self-care. Taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, and mentally is a vital expression of love. Self-care can take many forms, from eating nutritious food and getting enough sleep to engaging in activities that bring us joy and relaxation. It means taking the time to nurture ourselves, to rest when we are tired, and to make our well-being a priority. When we take care of ourselves, we are sending a powerful message to our subconscious that we are deserving of love, attention, and care. But perhaps the most important element of self-love is forgiveness. We all make mistakes, and we all have moments where we feel we have failed or fallen short. However, true self-love requires that we forgive ourselves for these mistakes and let go of the guilt and shame that may be holding us back. We must learn to release the past and accept that we are constantly growing and evolving. Self-forgiveness is not about excusing our behavior or denying our mistakes, but about acknowledging them, learning from them, and moving forward with compassion and understanding. When we forgive ourselves, we free ourselves from the emotional weight of past errors, and we open the door to healing and growth. As we begin to love ourselves, we start to attract the right people and experiences into our lives. When we value and respect ourselves, we naturally begin to draw in people who also value and respect us. We stop settling for relationships that are toxic, draining, or unfulfilling, and we begin to create connections that are rooted in mutual love, trust, and respect. We understand that we are worthy of love not because of what we do, but because of who we are. And in doing so, we start to experience the kind of love that is authentic, unconditional, and empowering. When we stop looking for love outside of ourselves, we begin to realize that love is not something we have to search for. It is already within us, waiting to be embraced. And when we embrace it, we find that the love we so desperately sought is no longer a distant dream, it is our reality. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness in our society, something to be avoided at all costs. We are taught from a young age to hide our feelings, to put on a brave face, and to never show signs of emotional fragility. We are told to be strong, independent, and perfect traits that we believe will make us more lovable, more acceptable to others. But in reality, it is our vulnerability that is the key to unlocking authentic love, both for ourselves and for others. The idea of vulnerability is often misunderstood. Vulnerability is not about weakness, it is about being open and honest with ourselves and others, even in the face of uncertainty, fear, or discomfort. It is about showing up as we truly are, without pretending to be someone we are not. Vulnerability allows us to connect with others on a deeper level because it is through our authentic selves, not our perfected versions, that true connection occurs. When we are vulnerable, we give others permission to be vulnerable as well. We create a space where people can show up as they are, without fear of judgment or rejection. Vulnerability allows for real, meaningful conversations that go beyond surface-level interactions and into the depths of what it means to be human. It is through vulnerability that we build trust, compassion, and understanding with others, and these are the building blocks of authentic love. For many of us, the idea of being vulnerable is terrifying. We fear rejection, we fear being judged, and we fear that our true selves are not worthy of love. But the truth is that vulnerability is the gateway to love. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open ourselves up to the possibility of experiencing love in its most pure and unconditional form. Vulnerability creates the space for connection and intimacy to flourish, and it allows us to experience love in a way that is real, raw, and transformative. One of the greatest barriers to love is the fear of being judged. We often hide parts of ourselves because we worry that others will not accept us if they truly see who we are. We build walls around our hearts, thinking that if we protect ourselves from the world, we will be safe. But the truth is that these walls keep love out. They prevent us from experiencing the kind of deep connection and intimacy that we crave. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we take down those walls and let others see us for who we really are. We stop pretending to be perfect, and in doing so, we create space for love to enter. Being vulnerable also means allowing ourselves to feel our emotions fully without suppressing or ignoring them. Many of us have been taught to tough it out when we are feeling sad, anxious, or hurt. We are told to keep our emotions in check and not let them show. But this only leads to emotional repression and disconnection from ourselves. When we embrace our vulnerability, we allow ourselves to feel all of our emotions, even the uncomfortable ones. We acknowledge our pain, our fears, our desires, and our dreams without judgment. This openness allows us to experience love more fully because it comes from a place of authenticity, not a place of fear or hiding. Vulnerability is also about asking for what we need and allowing ourselves to receive love from others. Often we believe that we must be self-sufficient and never rely on anyone else for support. We pride ourselves on being strong and independent, but this can lead to isolation. When we are vulnerable, we allow ourselves to ask for help when we need it, to lean on others when we feel overwhelmed, and to accept love and care without guilt or shame. We stop pretending that we have it all together, and we give ourselves permission to be human, to need others, and to be needed in return. In relationships, vulnerability is what allows love to deepen and grow. It is easy to show our best selves, our polished and perfect versions of who we are, but it is through our vulnerabilities that we truly connect. When we share our fears, our insecurities, our hopes, and our dreams with another person, we create an intimate bond that goes beyond surface level attraction or companionship. Vulnerability allows us to be seen not for our achievements, but for who we are at our core. And it is in this deep, unguarded connection that true love can flourish. However, embracing vulnerability is not without its challenges. It requires courage. It means confronting our fears of rejection, judgment, and inadequacy. It means letting go of the need to control how others see us and instead embracing the uncertainty of being fully present in the moment. Vulnerability is not easy, and it can feel uncomfortable at times. But it is in this discomfort that growth occurs. It is through vulnerability that we develop resilience, strength, and the capacity to love ourselves and others more deeply. The beauty of vulnerability is that it allows us to embrace our imperfections. We no longer need to hide the parts of ourselves that we deem unworthy. Instead, we accept our flaws and imperfections as part of what makes us human. Vulnerability teaches us that it is okay to not have it all figured out, that it is okay to be messy, to be emotional, and to be imperfect. These are the qualities that make us relatable, authentic, and real. And it is through our realness that we can connect with others in meaningful ways. When we embrace vulnerability, we also give others permission to do the same. We stop holding ourselves to impossible standards of perfection, and in doing so, we create a safe space for others to show up as their authentic selves. We stop judging others for their flaws because we recognize that we all have them. Vulnerability fosters empathy, compassion, and understanding, and it allows us to create connections that are based on mutual respect and care. Ultimately, vulnerability is the key to experiencing love in its most profound form. It is not about waiting for love to find us, but about opening ourselves up to the love that is already present around us. One of the most transformative shifts we can make in our journey toward authentic love is to stop looking for love in external sources and instead cultivate it from within. We live in a world that constantly reinforces the idea that love is something we need to find, something we need to search for and chase, whether through relationships, external validation, or the approval of others. This mindset tells us that we are incomplete without someone else's love, that we need to be chosen by someone else in order to feel worthy. But this mindset not only leaves us feeling perpetually empty, but it also undermines the truth that love is something that resides within each of us, ready to be discovered, embraced, and shared with the world. When we spend our lives seeking love outside of ourselves, we are often caught in an endless cycle of trying to fill a void that, ironically, was created by not loving ourselves first. We may chase after relationships, social approval, material success, or fleeting experiences, all in the hope that they will somehow complete us or make us feel whole. But the truth is that no external pursuit can ever fill the inner emptiness that comes from not fully accepting and loving ourselves. The first step in stopping the search for love outside of ourselves is to begin the process of self-discovery. Self-discovery involves learning who we are without the influence of others' expectations, opinions, or societal standards. It is about peeling back the layers of conditioning, belief systems, and insecurities that have been imposed on us over the years and getting back to the essence of who we are. This process is not always easy. It requires honesty, self-reflection, and the willingness to face our vulnerabilities. But it is in this process that we uncover the most important relationship we will ever have, the one with ourselves. Self-love is the foundation of everything. It is the root from which all other love grows. To love ourselves means to accept ourselves fully, flaws and all. It means embracing our imperfections and acknowledging that we are deserving of love not because of what we do or how we look, but simply because we are human beings who are inherently worthy. When we begin to accept ourselves as we are, without judgment or the need to constantly prove our worth, we open the door to a deeper, more authentic form of love, one that does not rely on external validation or approval. For many, this shift in mindset can be challenging. We live in a culture that promotes external validation at every turn. We are taught to seek approval from our parents, teachers, peers, and romantic partners. We are told that our value is tied to our achievements, appearance, and the love we receive from others. These messages create an unhealthy dependency on external sources of love, leaving us vulnerable to feelings of inadequacy when we do not receive the affirmation we crave. But when we stop looking for love outside of ourselves, we break free from this cycle of dependency and learn to source our worth from within. A crucial aspect of stopping the search for love outside of ourselves is developing a sense of self-compassion. Self-compassion involves treating ourselves with kindness, understanding, and patience, especially in moments of struggle or failure. It means giving ourselves the same love and care that we would offer to a close friend or family member. Many of us are often our own harshest critics, constantly berating ourselves for our perceived shortcomings. But when we practice self-compassion, we let go of this self-criticism and replace it with a nurturing, loving voice. This shift allows us to become our own source of comfort and support, rather than relying on others to provide it. Another important component of self-love is self-care. Self-care is not just about pampering ourselves with massages or spa days. It is about taking the time to nurture our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. It is about setting boundaries that protect our energy and prioritize our needs. When we engage in self-care, we send a powerful message to ourselves that we are worthy of love, attention, and respect. We no longer wait for others to treat us with kindness or to make us feel valued. We take the initiative to care for ourselves and honor our needs. As we begin to stop seeking love outside of ourselves, we also start to shift our perspective on relationships. Instead of entering relationships with the belief that we need someone else to complete us or validate our worth, we begin to approach relationships from a place of wholeness. We understand that relationships are not about filling a void, but about sharing love and connection with another person. We come to relationships as our authentic selves, without the need for approval or external affirmation. This shift allows us to build relationships that are based on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, rather than dependency or neediness. One of the most liberating aspects of this journey is the realization that we do not need anyone else's love to be whole. This does not mean that we no longer desire or need the love of others, but it means that our happiness and sense of worth are no longer contingent upon external sources. We stop looking for love to fill a void or solve our problems. Instead, we begin to source our love from within and offer it to others from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. This shift creates more fulfilling, balanced relationships and helps us cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace and contentment. The process of stopping the search for love outside of ourselves also involves letting go of the belief that we need to be perfect in order to be loved. Many of us feel that we must meet certain standards or expectations in order to be worthy of love. We may feel that our imperfections, flaws, and mistakes make us unlovable. But the truth is that love thrives in authenticity, not perfection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, when we show up as our true, imperfect selves, we invite real, unconditional love into our lives. Love is not about being flawless, it is about being real and accepting each other as we are. Ultimately, the most powerful love we can experience is the love we give to ourselves. When we stop searching for love outside of ourselves and begin to cultivate it within, we unlock a sense of freedom, peace, and fulfillment that cannot be found in external sources. This love is unconditional, ever-present, and not dependent on anyone else's approval or affection. It is a love that is rooted in the understanding that we are worthy simply because we exist, and that love flows from within, ready to be shared with the world. When we stop looking for love outside of ourselves, we realize that we have always been whole, always been enough, and always been worthy of love. There is a profound truth in the realization that we often seek love in the wrong places. We constantly look to external sources, other people, achievements, possessions, or even validation from society to fulfill our deepest needs for connection, acceptance, and affection. Yet these sources are fleeting and cannot provide the lasting fulfillment we long for. True love, the kind that nourishes and heals, comes from within. Understanding that love is not something to be found, but something to be cultivated within ourselves, is one of the most liberating and transformative realizations we can experience. We live in a world that is obsessed with external validation. From a young age, we are taught that love and worthiness are dependent on how others see us, on our appearance, accomplishments, and the way we make others feel. We are conditioned to seek out praise and approval from our parents, teachers, peers, and romantic partners. This external validation creates a false sense of self-worth, making us feel that we are only valuable if we meet certain standards set by others. This cycle of seeking approval is exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling because it places our worth outside of our control. When we rely on external validation for our sense of self-worth, we are constantly left vulnerable to the opinions and judgments of others. If someone praises us, we feel elated. But when criticism or rejection comes our way, we are deeply hurt and question our value. This dependency on external validation creates an unstable foundation for our sense of self. Our emotions and self-esteem become a roller coaster ride, subject to the whims of others. The more we seek love and approval from others, the more we disconnect from the one source of love that is within us, our own hearts. The journey towards self-love begins with the recognition that we are already whole, complete, and deserving of love, regardless of what anyone else thinks. This realization does not require any external validation. It is an internal knowing that we are inherently worthy. No achievement, relationship, or social status can add to or subtract from this worth. We are born with the capacity to love ourselves, and it is through this love that we begin to find peace, fulfillment, and authentic connection. Self-love is the foundation upon which all other love can flourish. When we love ourselves, we stop looking for validation in places that cannot satisfy us. Instead of trying to earn love or prove our worth to others, we learn to give love to ourselves freely and unconditionally. This does not mean being selfish or narcissistic. It means recognizing that our happiness, contentment, and sense of worth are not reliant on others. We begin to nurture ourselves, both physically and emotionally, and prioritize our well-being. We show up for ourselves in the same way we would for someone we love deeply, by being kind, compassionate, and patient. One of the most profound shifts in perspective is understanding that love is not something we find, but something we create within ourselves. When we shift our focus inward and stop seeking love from external sources, we free ourselves from the anxiety and disappointment that comes with constantly seeking approval. We stop waiting for others to complete us, and instead, we begin to see ourselves as whole and capable of offering love without needing anything in return. This shift changes the way we approach relationships. We no longer seek out love to fill a void or to validate our existence. Instead, we enter relationships as complete individuals, willing to give and receive love freely without expectation or neediness. The act of loving ourselves is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. It involves cultivating self-awareness and being in tune with our needs, desires, and feelings. It requires us to confront the parts of ourselves that we may have neglected or rejected, our fears, insecurities, and past wounds, and to show them compassion. Healing these parts of ourselves is essential in creating a strong, resilient foundation for self-love. We must acknowledge our imperfections, embrace them, and choose to love ourselves despite them. In doing so, we reclaim our power and our ability to experience love without relying on others to define it for us. The more we cultivate self-love, the more we become attuned to our own needs and desires. We begin to understand what brings us joy, what nourishes our soul, and what we need to feel fulfilled. We no longer settle for relationships, jobs, or circumstances that do not align with our true selves. We set boundaries that honor our worth and protect our energy. We begin to choose people, experiences, and environments that support our growth and well-being. The act of loving ourselves empowers us to make choices that honor our true essence, and this in turn attracts the kind of love that mirrors our own self-worth. It is essential to recognize that self-love does not mean that we never experience difficult emotions or face challenges. Loving ourselves is not about avoiding pain or struggle. Rather, it is about approaching these moments with compassion and acceptance. When we face setbacks or disappointments, self-love allows us to acknowledge the hurt, process it, and continue moving forward with resilience. We no longer see ourselves as failures when things don't go as planned. Instead, we understand that these challenges are part of the human experience and that we can face them with grace and self-compassion. At the heart of the human experience lies the desire for meaningful connection and love. It is a universal truth that we all crave love, understanding, and companionship. Yet the journey to finding love often involves a paradoxical realization. In order to experience the kind of love we seek, we must first learn to love ourselves. Too often, we place the responsibility for our happiness and sense of worth outside of ourselves, believing that love is something we need to search for in others. We wait for love to come from external sources, a partner, family, friends, or even professional success, hoping that once we are loved by others, we will feel complete. However, the love we seek is not something we need to find outside of us. It is something that we must create within. The first step in this journey is to recognize that the search for love outside of ourselves often stems from a sense of lack or incompleteness. Many of us grow up being told that love is something to be earned or that we are not truly lovable unless we meet certain conditions. This can lead to the belief that our worthiness is contingent on the love we receive from others, or that we must prove ourselves to be deserving of love. As a result, we may chase after relationships, achievements, and external validation, hoping that they will fill the empty space within us. But this approach rarely leads to lasting fulfillment. No external source of love can truly fill the inner void because the love we need most is the love that comes from within ourselves. Learning to stop searching for love in external sources requires a profound shift in mindset. Instead of waiting for someone else to love us, we must turn inward and begin to cultivate self-love. Self-love is not just about feeling good about ourselves when things are going well. It is about learning to accept ourselves, flaws and all, and treating ourselves with the same kindness, compassion, and respect that we would show to a beloved friend. It is about understanding that we are worthy of love simply because we exist, not because of our achievements, appearance, or the approval of others. One of the most important aspects of self-love is self-acceptance. We must accept ourselves as we are, with all of our imperfections and vulnerabilities. This means embracing our flaws, acknowledging our mistakes, and being gentle with ourselves in times of struggle. Self-acceptance is not about settling for mediocrity or giving up on growth, but rather about recognizing that we are enough as we are. When we accept ourselves fully, we begin to let go of the constant need for external validation. We stop looking for someone else's approval to feel good about ourselves, and instead, we create a sense of inner peace and confidence that comes from within. A key part of stopping the search for love outside of ourselves is understanding that love is not something we acquire from others, but something we give to ourselves and others. Love is not a finite resource that we need to hoard or fight for. It is an infinite and abundant energy that flows freely when we are open to it. The more we love ourselves, the more love we have to share with the world. When we stop searching for love in external places, we begin to recognize that love is always available to us. It is present in every moment, in every breath, and in every interaction. The act of loving ourselves involves taking care of our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Self-care is a vital aspect of self-love. It is about prioritizing our needs, setting boundaries, and ensuring that we are nurturing ourselves in a way that promotes our health and happiness. This might mean taking time to rest when we are tired, engaging in activities that bring us joy, or seeking out relationships that are supportive and fulfilling. It also involves letting go of toxic patterns and habits that drain our energy or undermine our sense of self-worth. When we commit to self-care, we signal to ourselves that we are worthy of love and respect, and we begin to build a solid foundation for our emotional and physical well-being. As we stop searching for love outside of ourselves, we also begin to recognize that we do not need to be in a relationship to be happy or fulfilled. Society often tells us that happiness is found in romantic relationships, but the truth is that we can be whole and complete on our own. Learning to love ourselves and enjoy our own company is one of the most liberating experiences we can have. We stop relying on others to complete us or make us feel valued, and instead we become our own source of happiness. This doesn't mean that we should isolate ourselves or reject the idea of relationships. It simply means that we no longer define our worth by our relationship status. We are enough with or without a partner. The more we stop seeking love outside of ourselves, the more we begin to appreciate the love that is already within us. We begin to realize that we are capable of providing ourselves with the love, validation, and support that we so often seek from others. When we stop looking for love outside of ourselves, we free ourselves from the need for external approval. We no longer feel dependent on others for our happiness, and instead we find fulfillment in the love and care that we give ourselves. This internal shift creates a deep sense of peace and contentment as we learn to honor and nurture ourselves in a way that allows us to be our authentic selves. Additionally, stopping the search for love outside of ourselves enhances our ability to build healthier, more meaningful relationships. When we are no longer dependent on others to fulfill our emotional needs, we can enter relationships with a sense of self-sufficiency and balance. We no longer look for a partner to complete us or give us a sense of worth. Instead, we approach relationships from a place of mutual respect, love, and understanding. We are able to give and receive love in a way that is healthy and nurturing for both parties. We no longer settle for unhealthy relationships or tolerate behavior that does not align with our values. We have a clear sense of our own worth, and this allows us to attract people who treat us with the same love and respect that we give to ourselves. In essence, stopping the search for love outside of ourselves is an invitation to reconnect with our own inner essence. It is a call to stop chasing after fleeting forms of love that can never truly satisfy us, and instead to turn inward and cultivate the deep, unconditional love that already resides within. When we stop searching for love in the world around us, we discover that the love we have been seeking was always within our grasp, waiting to be recognized and embraced. By learning to love ourselves, we unlock the door to a richer, more fulfilling life, a life where love flows freely and abundantly, from within and without. The search for love is often a journey filled with longing, yearning, and sometimes frustration. We are constantly taught that love is the ultimate goal, the pinnacle of happiness, and that to be truly fulfilled, we must find it in someone else. The media, society, and even our upbringing often reinforce the idea that love is something we must search for, and that our worth is validated by being loved. We may feel incomplete without love or convince ourselves that we need another person to fill the void we feel within ourselves. However, this mindset can trap us in a cycle of dependence, discontentment, and frustration. The truth is, love is not something we need to find outside of ourselves, but rather something we must learn to cultivate within. Understanding this profound shift is crucial in our journey toward inner peace and happiness. For many, the belief that love is something we must search for stems from a deeply ingrained need for external validation. We often tie our self-worth to how others perceive us, believing that their approval or affection will affirm that we are deserving of love. This belief leads us to seek out relationships and experiences that provide temporary feelings of worthiness. Yet, this external validation is never enough to fill the deeper sense of emptiness many of us carry. Even in the midst of loving relationships, we can still feel unfulfilled if we do not first learn to validate ourselves. When we rely solely on others to provide the love we seek, we place ourselves in a vulnerable position, dependent on circumstances and the approval of others to feel complete. The key to breaking free from this cycle is to realize that love is not something we need to search for, it is something we must create from within. True, lasting love does not come from external sources, it is an internal state of being that we must nurture and grow. Love is not just an emotion or something we feel when we are loved by others. It is a conscious choice and a practice that involves kindness, self-compassion, and acceptance. When we stop looking for love outside of ourselves, we open the door to a deeper, more authentic connection with ourselves. This connection lays the foundation for healthier, more fulfilling relationships with others. To cultivate self-love, we must first understand that it is not about perfection or meeting certain expectations. Self-love is about acceptance and appreciation of ourselves, flaws and all. It is about recognizing that we are worthy of love simply because we exist. Many of us struggle with self-love because we are conditioned to focus on our flaws, mistakes, and shortcomings. We often compare ourselves to others and feel inadequate or unworthy. However, self-love is about embracing all parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, and everything in between. It is about accepting our imperfections and seeing them as part of what makes us unique and beautiful. When we stop looking for love outside of ourselves, we begin to create a deeper connection with who we truly are. We start to let go of the constant need to prove our worth to others and instead begin to nurture and care for ourselves in ways that promote emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Self-love involves taking responsibility for our happiness and well-being rather than waiting for someone else to provide it for us. It means setting boundaries, saying no when necessary, and prioritizing our own needs and desires. It also means learning to forgive ourselves for past mistakes and understanding that we are all human, deserving of grace and compassion, especially from ourselves. Another crucial aspect of ceasing the search for love outside of ourselves is learning to be content with our own company. So often we believe that we cannot be happy or fulfilled unless we have a partner or someone to share our life with. Society often pushes the narrative that we need to be in a relationship to feel complete or validated. However, when we learn to be comfortable with ourselves and enjoy our own company, we free ourselves from the dependency on external validation. We realize that we are enough, just as we are, and that we do not need anyone else to define our happiness or worth. Learning to love ourselves and find fulfillment in our own company allows us to enter relationships from a place of strength and wholeness rather than dependence. In addition, the journey to stop searching for love outside of ourselves involves recognizing that the love we seek is not a finite resource that can be given or taken away. Love is an abundant energy that flows from within and can be shared freely with others. When we start to love ourselves, we have more love to give to the world around us. The love we offer others is not born from a place of neediness or expectation, but from a place of abundance. We no longer seek out relationships for validation or to fill an emotional void. Instead, we enter relationships with the intention of sharing love and creating mutual support and growth. We become more open to giving love freely, without the fear of it being taken away or rejected. Furthermore, by ceasing to look for love outside of ourselves, we also begin to develop a healthier perspective on relationships. We start to recognize that relationships are not about filling gaps or fixing deficiencies within ourselves. Healthy relationships are about mutual respect, trust, and support.